Haiti's 2010 quake. In January 2010, Haiti experienced an earthquake so devastating that it would forever change the nation's history. What began as an ordinary day quickly turned into a nightmare when the earth began to shake with unimaginable force. At 4:53 p.m. on January 12th, a 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck near Port-au-Prince, Haiti's densely populated capital. In just 35 seconds, homes, schools, hospitals, and government buildings collapsed into rubble. Entire neighborhoods were flattened, leaving survivors trapped under debris and the streets filled with cries for help. Port-au-Prince, home to millions, became the epicenter of unimaginable destruction. The quake destroyed more than 100,000 buildings and severely damaged another 200,000. Infrastructure critical to daily life, electricity, water systems, and transportation, was obliterated. Over 1.5 million people were displaced and forced to live in makeshift camps with little access to food, water, or medical care. The human toll was staggering. An estimated 250,000 people lost their lives, while countless others were left injured or grieving loved ones. In the weeks and months that followed, Haiti faced a profound humanitarian crisis. Aid organizations from around the world rushed to help, but the sheer scale of the devastation made recovery slow and difficult. Imagine the heartbreak of losing everything in a matter of seconds: your home, your family, and your community, all while wondering if help would come in time. But amid the immense suffering, stories of resilience and unity began to emerge. Neighbors helped dig through rubble to find survivors, and people across the globe donated time, money, and resources to aid the recovery. Rebuilding Haiti has been an uphill battle. The road to recovery is still ongoing more than a decade later, with many challenges remaining. Yet, the earthquake also shone a spotlight on Haiti's strength, its people's determination to rebuild, and the global community's capacity to unite in the face of tragedy. In just 35 seconds, homes were destroyed, families torn apart, and lives forever altered. The world bore witness to both immense suffering and extraordinary resilience, an event that stands as a somber reminder of the power of nature and the strength of the human spirit. Mount Tambura eruption. In 1815, Mount Tambura, a towering volcano in Indonesia, erupted with unimaginable force. This eruption wasn't just the deadliest volcanic disaster in recorded history. It sent shockwaves across the planet, changing the course of global climate and human history. Mount Tambura's eruption began on April 10, 1815, with a deafening explosion heard over 1,200 miles away. The volcano ejected an estimated 36 cubic miles of ash and rock into the atmosphere, turning day into night across the region. Pyroclastic flows, deadly avalanches of hot gas and volcanic debris, raced down the mountain, obliterating villages in their path. Entire communities were buried in an instant, and over 10,000 people died on the island of Sumbawa alone. But the devastation didn't stop there. The ash from the eruption was carried high into the atmosphere, where it blocked sunlight and cooled the planet. Over the following months, the Earth's average temperature dropped dramatically, leading to what became known as the year without a summer. Imagine a summer where the skies remain gray, crops wither in frosty fields, and rivers freeze in the middle of June. Across Europe, North America, and Asia, this became reality. Famine spread as harvests failed, and disease thrived in the wake of malnutrition. In some regions, food riots broke out as desperate communities struggled to survive. The immediate death toll from the eruption exceeded 70,000, but the global consequences were even more chilling. The volcanic winter caused by Tambura's ash cloud led to widespread famine and disease, claiming hundreds of thousands more lives worldwide. The effects of the eruption touched every corner of the planet, leaving a grim reminder of nature's interconnectedness. The skies darkened, temperatures dropped, and famine spread across continents. This was more than a regional catastrophe. It was a global event that altered lives, reshaped agriculture, and left scars that would linger for years. Tambura's eruption serves as a powerful example of how one event can ripple across the world, showing the delicate balance between humanity and nature. The Galveston Hurricane. In 1900, the city of Galveston, Texas, was a thriving port town, bustling with activity and optimism. But that September, the Gulf of Mexico churned with a hurricane so powerful that it would claim more lives than any other storm in U.S. history. Galveston would never be the same. The hurricane made landfall on September 8, 1900, with winds reaching an estimated 140 miles per hour. In an era before advanced weather forecasting, residents had little warning of the approaching storm. As the winds howled and rain poured, the sea began to rise. A massive storm surge, up to 15 feet high, crashed over the island, swallowing homes, businesses, and streets in its path. Entire neighborhoods were swept away as the island's wooden structures crumbled under the relentless force of the storm. Survivors clung to debris, desperately trying to escape the rising waters. When the storm finally passed, Galveston was unrecognizable, a city reduced to rubble. Imagine the terror of seeing the ocean rushing into your town, rising higher and higher, with nowhere to run. Families huddled together, hoping to survive the night, as the storm tore apart everything they knew. For many, there was no escape. The death toll was staggering. Over 8,000 people lost their lives. Some estimates suggest even more. Bodies were carried out to sea, buried under debris, or left unclaimed for days. The storm left tens of thousands homeless, and the island faced a monumental task of rebuilding. In the aftermath, Galveston rose again, but not without change. The city constructed a seawall to protect against future storms, raised the elevation of entire neighborhoods, and became a symbol of resilience. The hurricane also highlighted the need for better forecasting and preparedness, sparking improvements in meteorology and disaster planning. The sea swallowed Galveston, leaving behind only rubble and memories of what once was. Yet, out of the devastation came a determination to rebuild and a legacy of lessons learned. The Galveston Hurricane stands as a sobering reminder of nature's power and humanity's will to survive. The Tangshan Earthquake. In the early hours of July 28, 1976, as most of Tangshan, China, lay sleeping, the ground began to shake with unimaginable force. What followed was a 7.5 magnitude earthquake so powerful that it reduced the bustling industrial city to rubble. It's remembered as one of the deadliest natural disasters of the 20th century. The earthquake struck at 3:42 a.m., catching the city's 1 million residents completely off guard. In just 15 seconds, nearly every building in Tangshan collapsed. Homes, schools, factories, nothing was spared. Roads buckled, railways twisted, and the entire city was plunged into chaos. Tangshan's infrastructure wasn't built to withstand such a powerful quake, and the destruction was nearly total. Survivors were buried under the rubble of their homes, and rescuers, many of them untrained locals, worked tirelessly with bare hands to pull people to safety. Fires broke out, further complicating rescue efforts, while aftershocks continued to shake the city, deepening the devastation. For Tangshan, it wasn't just a quake. It was a single, heart-stopping moment when an entire city fell silent under the weight of its destruction. Imagine waking to find everything you know reduced to ruins, with no clear path to safety and no way to communicate with the outside world. The official death toll was staggering, 240,000 lives lost, though some estimates placed the true number even higher. Thousands more were injured, left homeless, or traumatized by the horrors of that night. Entire families were wiped out, and Tangshan became a city of mourning. Despite the devastation, recovery began almost immediately. Survivors, joined by military and government aid, worked to rebuild Tangshan brick by brick. The rapid reconstruction transformed the city into a symbol of resilience, but the emotional scars remained for decades. The Tangshan earthquake wasn't just a natural disaster, it was a profound human tragedy. It left an indelible mark on China, inspiring changes in building standards and disaster response strategies. Tangshan's story is one of immense loss, but also of determination and hope in the face of overwhelming odds. The Dust Bowl. During the 1930s, the U.S. Midwest, once known as the breadbasket of America, was transformed into a barren wasteland. Relentless dust storms swept across the region, choking the land, the air, and the hope of countless families. The Dust Bowl became one of the most harrowing environmental disasters in American history. The Dust Bowl wasn't caused by nature alone. It was the result of a devastating combination of human activity and environmental conditions. For years, farmers had plowed the grasslands of the Great Plains to plant wheat, removing the deep-rooted vegetation that held the soil in place. When a severe drought hit in the early 1930s, the dry, exposed soil turned to dust. Strong winds swept across the plains, carrying clouds of dust so thick they turned day into night. Dust storms, known as black blizzards, buried crops, ruined machinery, and even seeped into homes, covering everything in a layer of grit. Livestock suffocated, and families fell ill from dust pneumonia, caused by breathing in the fine particles. Imagine waking up to find the sky blackened and the air unbreathable, with no escape from the choking dust. For countless families, this was their daily reality, a fight for survival against a storm that seemed unending. The Dust Bowl left millions of people in despair. Entire farms were destroyed, forcing families to abandon their homes and livelihoods. The economic devastation compounded the effects of the Great Depression, leaving many with no choice but to migrate west in search of work and a fresh start. These displaced farmers, often referred to as Okies, faced harsh conditions and prejudice as they sought refuge in California and other states. The disaster also brought about significant change. It highlighted the importance of sustainable farming practices, leading to the introduction of soil conservation techniques and federal programs to restore the land. Windbreaks, crop rotation, and replanting grasslands helped to heal the damaged plains over time. The sky turned black, the air was unbreathable, and survival was a daily battle against nature's wrath. But the Dust Bowl also taught invaluable lessons about our connection to the land and the need to protect it. It remains a stark reminder of how human actions and environmental forces can collide to create disaster, and how resilience and innovation can pave the way to recovery. Cyclone Nargis. In May 2008, Cyclone Nargis tore through Myanmar with terrifying force, leaving behind a trail of destruction and heartbreak. It was a disaster of staggering proportions, one that devastated entire communities and tested the resilience of a nation. Cyclone Nargis struck on May 2, 2008, bringing with it sustained winds of 120 miles per hour and a storm surge that reached 12 feet in some areas. Low-lying villages in the Irrawaddy Delta were the hardest hit. Homes made of bamboo and wood stood no chance against the relentless winds and rising waters. As the storm surge swept inland, entire villages disappeared beneath the water. Families clung to trees or rooftops, desperately trying to survive the raging floodwaters. Fields were submerged, destroying crops and livestock, the lifeline of many rural communities. When the storm finally passed, it left behind a landscape of utter devastation. Imagine waking up to find your entire village gone, swept away by the sea. Loved ones missing, food supplies were destroyed, and no way to call for help. For many in the path of Cyclone Nargis, this nightmare became their reality. The human toll was staggering. Over 138,000 people lost their lives, and millions were left homeless. Survivors faced unimaginable challenges: lack of clean water, food shortages, and the spread of disease. Entire families were uprooted, and the emotional scars ran deep. The government's response to the disaster drew widespread criticism. Aid was slow to arrive, and restrictions on international relief efforts hampered recovery. Many survivors felt abandoned and forced to rely on their resilience and the generosity of neighbors to rebuild their lives. Cyclone Nargis didn't just destroy homes and fields, it shattered lives and communities. Villages disappeared underwater, families were swept away, and survivors faced unimaginable loss. Yet, amid the devastation, acts of kindness and determination emerged, showing the unbreakable spirit of those who endured the storm. This disaster serves as a reminder of the immense power of nature and the importance of preparation and global solidarity in times of crisis. The Tōhoku earthquake and tsunami. On March 11, 2011, the Earth shook with a magnitude of 9.0, unleashing one of the most devastating disasters in Japan's history. The Tōhoku earthquake wasn't just an isolated event. It triggered a towering tsunami and a nuclear meltdown, creating a chain reaction that left the nation and the world in shock. At 2:46 p.m., the earthquake struck off the northeastern coast of Japan, shaking the ground for nearly 6 minutes. Buildings swayed, roads cracked, and terrified residents sought shelter. But the earthquake was only the beginning. The violent shaking triggered a tsunami that surged toward Japan's coastline. Waves as high as 133 feet crashed into coastal cities, sweeping away homes, cars, and entire neighborhoods. Ships were carried inland, and the waters moved with such force that they flattened everything in their path. Some communities were completely wiped off the map within minutes. As if the earthquake and tsunami weren't devastating enough, the disaster triggered a nuclear crisis at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. The tsunami flooded the plant's cooling systems, causing reactor meltdowns and releasing radioactive material into the environment. Imagine watching a massive wave swallowing your town, leaving you with nowhere to run, and then hearing that a nuclear accident has added yet another layer of danger. For the people of Japan, this was their harsh reality. The human toll was staggering. Nearly 20,000 lives were lost, and hundreds of thousands were displaced. Entire families were separated, with many survivors left grieving loved ones they would never see again. The disaster also caused significant economic and environmental damage, with long-term radiation concerns forcing evacuations that left ghost towns in Fukushima. Despite the overwhelming devastation, Japan's response showed remarkable resilience. Communities came together to support one another, and the government undertook massive rebuilding efforts. Advanced technology was employed to create tsunami barriers and improve earthquake safety standards, ensuring future generations would be better protected. One disaster led to another, creating a chain reaction of destruction that pushed Japan to the brink, but also showcased its resilience. The Tōhoku earthquake and tsunami weren't just disasters. They were a testament to the strength of a nation that refuses to give up, even in the face of unimaginable loss. The 1883 Eruption of Krakatoa. In 1883, Krakatoa, a volcanic island in Indonesia, erupted with such force that its effects were felt across the globe. The eruption of Krakatoa was one of the most powerful volcanic events in history. Located between Java and Sumatra, the eruption in August 1883 sent shockwaves that altered the Earth's atmosphere and left a lasting impact on the world. On August 26, 1883, the eruption began with a massive explosion that was heard over 3,000 miles away, one of the loudest sounds ever recorded. The eruption released thick ash clouds, darkening skies worldwide and causing a volcanic winter, which led to cooler temperatures and crop failures. Along with the explosion, tsunamis struck nearby coastal regions, reaching heights of 120 feet and causing over 36,000 deaths. Entire islands were destroyed, and the land around Krakatoa was reshaped forever. The eruption's global effects didn't stop at destruction. The ash clouds lingered in the atmosphere, causing vivid sunsets around the world, with bright red and purple skies. These haunting sunsets, a result of the particles scattering sunlight, served as a constant reminder of the eruption's far-reaching impact, creating eerie beauty from devastation. The eruption left entire islands wiped off the map and changed sunsets around the world, a haunting reminder of nature's unrelenting power. Krakatoa's eruption not only reshaped the region but also altered the global climate and the way people saw the world. The fiery sunsets became symbols of nature's overwhelming power, reminding us that such extraordinary events are beyond our control. The eruption remains a powerful reminder of how nature can change the world in an instant. The 1931 China floods. In 1931, the Yangtze River in China overflowed, creating a flood so catastrophic that it remains the deadliest in recorded history. The 1931 floods in China are often considered the worst in history. A combination of natural and human factors led to an event that would devastate millions. The Yangtze River, along with other major rivers like the Yellow and Huai, burst their banks, causing destruction that affected much of China. The flood was triggered by a combination of heavy rains, melting snow, and poor flood management. Continuous rainfall in the summer of 1931, along with melting snow from the mountains, caused the rivers to swell. The river systems, already overloaded, breached their banks, sending massive amounts of water flooding the surrounding areas. Thousands of square miles were submerged, affecting both rural and urban areas. Cities and villages were wiped out, and millions of people were forced to flee their homes. The scale of the disaster was immense. It's estimated that the flood claimed the lives of up to 4 million people, either through drowning, the spread of diseases in the floodwaters, or famine caused by the destruction of crops and infrastructure. The disaster led to major hardships, leaving entire towns buried beneath water, with millions displaced and struggling to survive. However, the flood also led to long-term changes. In the aftermath, China recognized the need for better flood management. The 1931 disaster pushed the government to invest in water control measures, such as dams and better river management practices, which were crucial in preventing future catastrophes. Entire towns disappeared beneath the water, leaving millions homeless and struggling to survive. The 1931 floods showed just how devastating water can be when unleashed. The floodwaters didn't just wash away homes, they wiped out entire communities. Whole towns vanished beneath the rushing waters, leaving survivors stranded and vulnerable. The sheer power of nature during this disaster made it clear how water, when uncontrolled, can become a force capable of unimaginable destruction. The 1931 floods serve as a reminder of nature's raw power and the devastating effects that can result from a lack of preparedness. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you learned something, then hit the like button and comment down below what other historical events you would like to see me cover in the future, and subscribe if you're interested in continuing to learn more. Thank you again, and goodbye.